Good morning, sunshine. I'm Carey Pena alongside Brandon Lee, and we are broadcasting today from the Center for Positive Media. We want to welcome to our studio Dr. Jen Huberty, Fractional Chief Science Officer. Yes, I got that right.
Yes,
I got that right. You have an incredible resume, and we're so excited to have you here to talk about leveraging science to improve mental and behavioral health in the workplace, and you feel so passionately about this. Let's start by talking a little bit about your background. You came from one of my favorite apps, which is Calm, and this sort of propelled you into this space. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I spent 25 years in academics, and I was a research professor at ASU, and slowly moved into Calm. I spent 5 years there. I grew a science team, but basically what I was doing there is helping show evidence for their product. So for example, when Matthew McConaughey became the story, sleep stories, everyone said, oh, Calm's an app that will help you sleep. And I said, well, Matthew McConaughey isn't the exact reason why we're sleeping better. Let's figure this out. We ran a randomized control trial across the United States, and we had people in the intervention and control group, and turned out those who were sleep disturbed had improvements in their sleep using Calm versus those that were not using Calm. So that's like just an example of what some of the things that I was doing for them. And then my career just kind of took off, and companies were like, how do you do this? Can you do this for me? Can you help us? And I was like, maybe I should do my own thing now. And so I left and started my own company.
How are you applying this to the mental health and behavioral health and, advising some very big companies and CEOs that this matters?
Yeah, so, a lot of these mental health companies, so for example, I work with a healthcare company right now, and they're very focused on teen and adolescent mental health. It's an amazing company, but it's like, in order to get payers to reimburse people, in order to get organizations to purchase this tool for people, they have to have an evidence that when a kid comes in with high anxiety, when they get done 6 months along with the program, they have less anxiety. They're doing better in school. They're, sleeping better. And actually, some of this is so interesting because it ties to the parents and the caregivers. We see that caregivers actually have better sleep and less stress as soon as their child enters into something like this. So that's just an example of one company. But also, there needs to be more companies like offering these things for their employees, right?
What are some examples that you can point out that of a place like maybe at Calm that have done things that you say, okay, these are good examples of things to help people in their mental health journeys?
Yeah, so there's so many ways that you can support individuals in a workplace setting. Now we're in hybrid, situations, so it's more difficult because how many people are going to read the email or the newsletter about, oh, you should use this resource we just bought for you, right? So it gets a little difficult, but the support can come in the environment in the sense of like, I know at Calm, they're remote now, but when we were there more often, there was a meditation room. It was literally I thought it was the coolest thing ever when I first got there. I was like, But, you could go in the room and you could take a nap. You could just, be quiet. You could listen to sound, like whatever. It was a room. And it's not a bad thing to be away from your desk, right? So it's like, how are we going to take care of our employees in those same things? Like, can I get offline, off Slack for 10 minutes so I can go walk around the block and get some sun? Like, what is my boss going to say? And are we having environments where those things are supported?
It's fascinating. I partner with a company called Community Bridges, and we work with just their frontline staff. These are people who are working on the front lines of SMI, serious mental illness, every single day. And it's a burnout, right? I mean, it could easily be a burnout. And for 2.5 years that, what CBI stepped up and they said, okay, listen, we're going to give you guys 3 hours. You get to sign up. For 3 hours, you can be away on company time. You can be away from the job. You go to Art of Our Soul. You do art and music, healing for 3 hours out of your day. And then you can come back to your shift, or you can leave that toward the end of your shift. And what they found over the course of 2.5 years is that employees were uplifted and they were more energized throughout the remainder of their shift, and actually held that for weeks on end, looking forward to being able an opportunity to come back.
Well, and the other part is that they feel supported. They feel like I'm not just offering an app. Here you go. Here's your 5 apps I bought everybody at my company. Use your apps. It's like, no, it goes beyond that, right? And Gen Zennials, I call them Gen Zennials, basically 18 to 35-year-olds. This is who is going to run the work site, the workplace. They're there and they're growing, right? And they care about if their employee cares about, or their employer cares about them. And they will not work somewhere in which they don't feel cared for, accepted for who they are and who they want to be. They're not afraid to talk about their mental health, and they want people to talk about their mental health. We just published a bunch of stuff on this because it is so important as we move forward with employee-employer, relationships.
I just want to ask you though, as we close, I have a lot of questions for you, so we'll have to have a second segment on another day. But I think, if you're going to walk the walk, talk the talk, and you say we want to support these efforts, right? We want to support one another. The bosses then have to truly create a space that is safe. If someone is vulnerable or someone wants to talk, I've heard situations where someone opens up and then it backfires. So I just was wondering, how are you implementing or helping CEOs implement a space that truly someone can be vulnerable and be honest?
Yeah, I think so. There's a few things to that. One is like, if I were going to give a CEO advice on something like that, I'd go to the evidence and I would say like, okay, what are the companies, if you will, or the resources that are doing well because they're offering opportunities for CEOs to offer these things for their employees, because there's a bunch of different companies for therapy, because there are resources out there. You just have to tap into them, right? There's more than just apps, right? And there's a lot of different ways to support employees, but as an employer, you have to care enough about it to do the work, or hire the people to do the work for you, right? Let's be honest.
And as you said, it's really a generational thing, and we're starting to see that shift. And unfortunately, that there still are a lot of old male CEOs out there running some of these companies, and they grew up in a generation where vulnerability was always seen as a weakness and not a strength. And unfortunately, sometimes those guys will never be able to see it from that perspective. Eventually, time will come, they will retire, and this new generation, as you're speaking of, is going to be growing up. And as we've made leaps and bounds over the past decade, I can only imagine the leaps and bounds we will make in this forthcoming decade.
Yeah, and there are companies that are leading the way. Like I'm not going to name names or anything, but there are companies that are definitely doing their due diligence and paying attention and those kinds of things. And we can all strive to be there in our own way based on our resources. 2 people at your company or 2,000 people at your company, right? Yep. So
I love that. I love the work you're doing, and your company is called Fit Minded. And where can people find out more about you?
At my website, jenhubertyphd.com, and also on my LinkedIn.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Way to put all that, the brains and your PhD into something that can make such a huge impact. So Jen, thank you so very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
For coming in to see us. And thanks to all of you for watching Good Morning Sunshine. We certainly appreciate you joining us every week.
Yep, and while you're here right now watching this episode, go ahead and click that notification bell. That way you're alerted every time we upload a new episode. Have a great day. We'll see you back here for the next episode.